In the quiet moments before the world wakes up, there's a place where pain meets peace, where every breath feels like a prayer and grief stands still. We carry the weight of what was and search for meaning in the smallest things. And sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us we're still here, still healing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reach Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast, and yes, we are your number one podcast to bring you stories around death, dying, and grief, all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here changing people's lives, one heartbeat at a time. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And most importantly, since this is a live stream, you'll be able to answer, you'll be able to put your questions and comments in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, one other thing before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Okay, so now without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest to the show, Mr. Stephen D., the founder of Bloodweat. Stephen, how you doing?
Hey, Tony, thank you. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man.
Look forward to a good show. This is actually
man.
probably truly my first professional podcast, I guess, at least, being streamed live, that is.
Yeah, man. Well, we're going to have a great time, man. You have an amazing cause. You have an amazing story, So before we get started, before we get into that, man, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. So tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Jadek. I'm the CEO of two companies, co-CEO anyway. I've named others along with me, but Hippos in Training and Bloodweat Incorporated. My background is it's extensive, at least in my opinion. I grew up in upstate New York. Joined the Air Force out of high school, and when I had become a medic and was doing my training for that, I became paralyzed with an autoimmune disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's autoimmune motor demyelinating ascending paralytic disorder. What all that means is it starts in your feet and moves its way up and paralyzes you just by knocking out your motor nerves. Your sensory remained all intact. So I could feel everything. And as a matter of fact, the muscles became hypersensitive. So when I got paralyzed in the Air Force, obviously that ended my career and hopes of being a medic. So in the military anyway, as I got out, I did phlebotomy after, a couple of year, probably 2, 3 year recovery, really. Had to learn how to walk again. And, at 18, 19 years old, becoming paralyzed, going from a 190-pound fit cadet, ready to take on the world to all of a sudden not even be able to breathe on my own and had to be intubated for a week. It was devastating at the time. And in a way, it was a form of rebirth. And I pursued the medical career. And in 1999, make a long story short, I graduated as a physician's assistant, a PA, also known as a physician's associate. Graduated pretty high on the end of my class. Not that anybody ever asked what my grades were, but I did, I think, remarkably well for somebody of my background, at least educationally. When I became a PA in 1999, I moved to Sarasota, Florida, and began doing cardiothoracic surgery. It was an era where, open and more invasive was really the way to go. It wasn't about minimally invasive surgery, stents. It was certainly developing and going that way, but the prime heyday of cardiothoracic surgery was in the 80s and 90s, and particularly early 2000s. The career bloomed and blossomed for qualified physician associates. I did vein harvesting, started out learning how to cut the leg open and harvest the vein open. Although then we started doing bridging incisions and ultimately got into a procedure called endoscopic vein harvesting, or EVH, and was on research and development teams and became quite proficient. I mean, I attribute that to being a video game era child, probably like yourself, Tony. And when we were, what they call us, a latchkey kid, and when they left us home
Yeah.
with the video games, man, we didn't have to keep putting quarters in them, fortunately. And
Yeah.
I played a lot, and that developed hand-eye coordination that honestly transferred over to endoscopic surgery extremely well, because it's almost like flying an airplane on a computer where you push up and the nose goes down, right? Go down and the nose goes up. Now, left and right is reversed because you have a camera on the end of an endoscope as I move left and right. And I learned a lot of tricks, developed procedural ways of making things more efficient. I mean, shoot, I harvested my fastest vein, and it was a meticulous, not a butchered up piece of Swiss cheese, but I harvested a piece of vein out that we needed to use for the bypass on the heart. That was the job of the PA, in addition to first assisting and closing and doing all types of things in there. So, although I don't label myself a surgeon, it's hard to say I'm not, because I did surgery for 20 some odd years. And
Right.
after a full career of that, another autoimmune disease hit me, Tony, and I became paralyzed. Not motor. This time it really affected more of my sensory nerves, and it became an issue of pain. The autoimmune process triggered by the COVID vaccine that I had taken, it was the third vaccine in 2021, attributed to a multi or a multi joint inflammation, autoimmune inflammation, that became so severe that, I mean, I thought I was never going to walk again, to be honest. It was really looking bad. And I had my knee scoped at that time, about 2 months after the third vaccine I had received, two Pfizer and then the Moderna vaccine. Of course, I took it because it was highly encouraged with the hospitals, right? Taking care of sick patients in the ICU, heart and lung. I mean, we were doing things to patients that I had never seen done in my career, including putting subcutaneous catheters in to try and suction out all the air and emphysema that surrounded their terribly failing lungs. And when I lost my career because of the vaccine, number one, physically, it was one thing to deal with. I developed uh, a gluten allergy, Tony, and couldn't eat anything gluten related. Which, to make it simple for those that are not glutards like myself, it's WERB. You have to avoid wheat, oat, rye, and barley. WERB. And think about it, man. That, to be honest, when that happened, and I was going through a divorce at that time, it was harder for me to give up pancakes than it was to give up my ex-wife, to be honest. I mean, sad to say, but it's difficult to have to adjust your lifestyle to. And thank goodness that that gluten allergy did resolve, and my pain stopped getting worse. And so, as I had to apply for disability and fight for that process, I started developing this baseball program I had for children in place called Hippos in Training. And it had been a theory, but then it evolved to reality as I lost my career, doing heart surgery. It's not only a job, but it was a mission, a path, and what I thought, my chosen abilities were to use on this world, right? That's
Yeah.
hard to figure out for all of us.
That's really true. And also, let's talk a little bit more about blood sweat and the meaning behind that.
Yeah. Well, Hippos in Training it's a simple program that I'm trying to arrange online for parents to run a T-ball program and help them connect better to the kids. And it's a multifaceted program which encourages positivity, sportsmanship over spectatorship, right? And
Yeah.
so as I was developing more reasons why we use the hippo as our mascot, you turn your hips to make power and velocity. They're one of the fastest land animals. They open their mouth like this with, so it's kind of like an alligator or a glove when you teach a kid to field a baseball. They're territorial. I say they're not aggressive. I did a scientific expedition down in Colombia on the project and a press release and a lot of research, and found that they're really not aggressive. They're territorial, but that's just like you and I. So as I was looking up more reasons, like they're one of the fastest land animals, and running to first base like a hippo is, it makes sense to children because you can't stop on the base. You're supposed to run through it and slow down like a big fat hippo would. I say
Yeah.
PHAT, because our mascot's pretty dope. And the fact you turn your hips to make power and velocity, well, it all made sense. And then as I was researching, I have a portion of my baseball program, Hippos in Training, that's more about building the eclectic abilities of the kids, the artistic talents, music, art, drawing, whatever, and uh, as I was researching things to go on there, I found that the hippo, through their 16-inch thick skin, secretes two acids called hipposudoric and norhipposudoric acid. Well, they make something called blood sweat. Blood sweat was first studied in the early 80s by some Japanese scientists that were in Africa, I guess, or Japanese physicians. And they found this two acids, hipposudoric, norhipposudoric acid, combined to make blood sweat that has five functional properties. And well, I started thinking to myself, man, there's no crying in baseball, blood, sweat, no tears. It kind of all goes together, and having it as a brand for Hippos in Training, all of a sudden we had a tangible, uh, actual scientific substance that we were going to be now able to mimic with properties of some of the items that we choose to manufacture and sell in order to help do bigger things and in order to really boost the brand. It sounds wild, but I was off. I left the country and went to Colombia and got involved with Sinaloa, Mexico, and a place called Ostock Sanctuary. And I met with David Lopez, who was the head of the ecosystem for Antioquia, which is basically like one third to one half of Colombia. And he answers to the president and Susanna Mohammed, who's oversees all of the ecosystem. And in a place that's considered the number two most biodiverse ecosystem on our planet. Well, in essence, Tony, they're not, right? They're tied for first with about 11 or 10 other countries. They all take care of the Amazon. And I was like, wow. I looked it up, and the hippos that are out there really only reside in Africa or in zoos and sanctuaries. Well, there's one place that they reside in the wild outside of Africa, which makes them an invasive species, and it's in Colombia. Pablo Escobar's hippos. Now, certainly, I don't endorse him or anything he stood for or did, but he left behind some hippos. He brought four hippos to Hacienda Annapolis, his free roaming sanctuary in Antioquia, Colombia. And I visited the place, and it's kind of sad because they now have some hippos contained within what they created to be a zoo. Hacienda Annapolis was originally created by Pablo to be a free roaming sanctuary for his guests and business associates to be able to enjoy exotic animals. And, I think the lions were kept in cages, but the hippos were allowed to just run wild. And after he passed in 1992, and I've got nothing to do with him. If anything, I say now let's just talk about him being like PE or gym class for our baseball program, and move it on to something good, because now the hippos, after they escaped after he died in 92, they, instead of one boy and three girls, now there's like 350 hippos impacting the heart of our Amazon River rainforest. And you can't deny that that's science that we need to get involved with, really making a difference and fixing that problem. And that's what blood sweat's about. It's secreted by the hippo, or mascot. There's no crying in baseball. And rather than working on hippos in training, I geared off to an exit and began developing blood sweat as a brand and as a humanitarian effort in order to make true change happen, not to be an activist, We got plenty of those around, but to be an actionist, and that's different because, well, I came back, I did a press release, and I petitioned along with our congresswoman to cancel a drug called Gunacon, G's, capital Gona, capital Con. And Gunacon was being bought from China by the USDA, sold and shipped down to Colombia, where it was injected into the hippos to prevent reproduction. Well, along with Ostok Sanctuary out of India, we're moving 80 of the hippos, those of us involved in the project. And we got Gunacon canceled because it was no longer necessary. And that was Blood Sweat's impact. I mean, well, it's not such a big deal. Well, number one, the hippos got COVID in 2021. Coincidence? I don't know, but you can look it up and see. And if there's a drug coming from China, right, the same year that COVID happened and all, to me, it was best off that we didn't use this drug. It was being harpooned into the hippos, right? At a mere 20 something percent efficacy rate at 1 year. And then it wasn't being monitored. So the hippos that were being injected and all, they didn't know if they were injecting them again at times later on. So it was an ineffective form of sterilization that was also causing massive infections. Remember, 16-inch thick skin. They were harpooning this big needle into them, and some of that drug and the infections were spilling into the water of the people of Colombia. So in essence, the drug wasn't needed. We're moving the hippos so we don't have to stop them from reproducing. If anything, we need to fix the bloodline, right? Those
Mhm.
hippos, PE's hippos, are special hippos because they all came from the same father, and that
Okay.
makes their bloodline a straight, their family tree a straight branch, right?
Yeah.
If they originally had one boy and three girls. So truly what needs to happen is 70 of them are going to India, 10 of them are going to the sanctuary in Ostok Sanctuary in Sinaloa. And I've got videos and all of where they're going to be going. It was filling up with water at the time because they had just made it. This was about a year and a half ago or so when I had been down there. And it's been a really interesting saga because unfortunately, when I did that, when I went to Colombia and got so intricately involved in filing my trademarks, and I think somebody in the paper trail missed that I filed trademarks and all that, but I got falsely investigated, thinking that I was trying to begin something illegal and ridiculous. Something that the guy that owned the hippos would have done, start an illegal trade. And I had no interest in any of that, man. It was truly a humanitarian effort. I really had kind of gone out of my mind a bit, trying to figure what I'm going to do with my life. And truly, I saw this as an exciting opportunity because the trademark had run out on Blood Sweat. So I filed on June 26, 2023. I filed the trademark for Blood Sweat. And it's funny because it was the same day that my offer came through to be a part of running the heart and lung transplant program at Tampa General Hospital. I had interviewed and been looking into trying to come back after the injuries I had, but unfortunately, some situations arose that made my situation go from bad to worse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So let's talk about your journey, man, because you got one hell of a journey. You've been through a hell of a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about, what was that path like, and and how did you sustain those injuries?
Well, my first injury was the autoimmune, being paralyzed and all when I was young. Another autoimmune process from the COVID vaccine made all of my joints extremely fragile, brittle, and inflamed. And so when I came back from Colombia, I was out walking this dog. This is Nick, my old, I guess he's considered a therapy dog, but I'm more of a therapy human, a CNI human. He's 19 and blind now. But anyway, this particular night, it was the night, November 20th, 2023. I had come back from Columbia and I had put together my project and we just did the press release. It was that day. And I was walking the dog and I twisted my knee. Well, I had already had incidents and arguments with local officials in my town, Tarpon Springs, Tampon Springs, I call it, but I slip sometimes. Tarpon Springs is a small community on the west coast, southwest Florida. And being a New Yorker, there is a lot of kind of New York and Greek attitudes and all down there. But, being I did heart surgery, I had been in the community for a while. I was pretty well known and I was a fairly strong voice in the little league and standing up for our kids. Well, at this time when I had quit working, I was focusing on little league, and I found that really there was a lot of bad things going on at the little league. And unbeknownst to me, the new president, like an old president, was stealing significant amount of money out of the pot from the little league. She recently got arrested for, I believe, 30 or $40,000 that she had embezzled, and there were other problems going on, things that were safety issues. And I pulled my son out of Little League, ultimately got into a situation where I was yanked from my house. When I had called to have them just check my blood pressure, they tried to yank me and throw me into a mental institution because I was angry and unhappy with how they were treating me. They misdiagnosed me. They didn't, they said I had taken too much of my which medication I take is for ADHD, Adderall. But the thing is, they missed that on that at that time for about a few weeks there, I wasn't even taking that medication because I was on high dose prednisone and another drug called leflunomide, which was trying to knock down the inflammation that had been caused by the COVID vaccine. So because of those reasons, I was holding the medication. I had told them that, but they missed it. And they basically mistreated me, misdiagnosed me, and then tried to throw me into 4-point restraints and shove me into a hospital when I refused to go in. And the doctor immediately saw me and let me go. He asked me if I was going to hurt myself or anybody else. And I said, absolutely not. He must have had me unstrapped within 20 to 30 seconds after these guys, like 6 or 8 of them, brutally threw me into 4-point restraints. And this happened multiple times in Tarpon Springs because my mouth, it's really not a matter of me physically threatening or resisting anybody ever. Never did. I mean, if you feel threatened by somebody's physical presence, to be honest, that's on you, especially if
Yeah,
you've got a belt full of weapons, right? Well, when
yeah,
I called help this one particular night on my press release, EMS never came, and that had been a pattern in the town. If I had run on the scene and treated somebody that passed out or whatever, and I told them to call because I was the one calling, they always sent the cops first. And this time they sent 6 or 8 cops, surrounded me. And when I took off my glasses and I kept telling them I want EMS, I want my wife, I want a lawyer. I threw my glasses to the side and it touched one of their boots or something, or their thigh, or I think just slide it against their knee. Well, they called these a weapon and they said I committed battery on an officer. And then they added resisting arrest with violence, which you can't find video of me physically resisting. What is verbally resisting arrest, particularly with violence? I
yeah.
mean, if I threaten somebody and say, I'm going to punch you in the face and all that, but if you review what I said and how I said it, Tony, I was very calculating to make sure none of it was construed as threatening. Worst thing I did was call him a fat motherfucker, but I meant PHAT fat, Tony, like my hippo.
I love it, man. I love it.
And they took me from that point. They threw me in this officer in particular who arrested me that night had falsely arrested me 2 years prior. I have the video of that, having him admit that he was wrong for doing that night. That night he charged me with domestic violence and strangulation on my wife. Never happened. My wife called the cops because we were out at a party and something happened that she wasn't happy about, and she was drinking. Well, when the cops came, she said, "Just leave. Nothing happened. Whatever." And She gets nervous. She ends up with a blotchy part on her chest. She's 5 foot nothing. Trust me, if I had put my hand on her, everybody would have known. I had cameras up. Anyway, told them that. This same officer charged me with domestic violence and strangulation. I was released and had to go back to work with that, defamation of my character. And the state attorney never even filed that charge because, well, it was completely fallible. It was completely uh, manipulated, fabricated, whatever you want to call it, by Officer Spatz, who falsely arrested me that night. I never touched my wife. We told him that, both me and my wife, and video showed the evidence as well. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter, Tony. If they put that on your charge, well, when I drank as a younger dumbass at 2009, I had a DUI. And in the state of Florida, if you've ever had a DUI, then you cannot get anything removed from your record, period. It's just one of their laws. And so, well, that's really not on my record, is it? But how many people's record and character go ruined by the fact that, well, to be honest, everybody in jail for the most part is accused. They're not waiting sentencing. They're not waiting going to prison. They're sitting there because somebody said they did something. And yeah, we're in the best world. We're supposed to be innocent till proven guilty. Well, when they proved me guilty of battery on an officer and kept me from due process, brought me to a Publix parking lot where they traded me over to a tin can truck, one of their little prison trucks, which on the way to jail kept slamming his brakes on and bouncing me around. The video will show this. That one I can't get yet. But anyway, they took me to the jail where I was brought in. Obviously, I was very displeased. And, when they were rolling me in a wheelchair, they caught my finger in it. And like you can see how cut up it was on the pictures that I have from when I finally got released. But they caught my finger and I yelled, ow, and whatever. And then because I yelled, ow, I got thrown in a chair where I was not only handcuffed behind my back, not only shackled my ankles, not only soaked around my neck with a freaking dust cover or whatever on, but they put these two straps on me. When I screamed I couldn't breathe, the officer leans back so far on these straps that you can see his back getting down to where it's going to touch the ground. Well, I was already in handcuffs, shackles, and the neck collar thing. What's the purpose of making me not breathe? Well, we know what that purpose is. And I realized quickly that this was an attempt to shut me up for good. And when I told them I couldn't breathe, they tightened the straps even tighter to where I just stopped talking. I could barely whisper because I couldn't move my chest. And if you think about it, try to put your seatbelt on really, really tight in the car. And remember, there's two of them coming this way in this chair. It's called the devil's chair. And with my chest being completely collapsed, I knew it was do or die now because they wheeled me in a room, shut the door, and nobody came in, Tony. I think it was almost 5 hours by the time they finally opened it, as I was pleading for my life, trying to gasp for air, trying to get somebody's attention. I didn't care. At that point, I said, I'm going to kill myself because I was hoping they'd snatch me up and throw me in a psych ward.
Yeah.
And I was begging, pleading for my life. Nobody would even look at me. One nurse, I guess she was a nurse, would come every hour or so and like stand on her toes to look over the glass a little bit. But I told her I couldn't feel my hands. The handcuffs they had on me were so tight. I told them I was struggling to breathe. And again, I don't remember how it all went down, Tony, because I know I blacked out. And I believe I was very close to death at that point. After that, the torture got even worse. I was kept somehow I survived that 5 hours. They pulled me out, put me in another cell where they kept me naked, shut the water off, and I had to drink freaking toilet water ultimately. I was sweating profusely. Water had been shut off to the sink. And I was standing there naked because they had me in a paper gown. So I was all types of mad and screaming at people on the other side of the plexiglass. And I'm sure they didn't know what the hell they were going to do with me at this point, because straight up, one guy tried to kill me. And when I called him out and said that I believed the initial officer, Officer Mathis, who was very much involved with this whole ordeal, was the one that ordered to have me put in there and all. Then there was another officer there that came, and his name was Cordona. He straight up looked at me in the eyes through the plexiglass and said, "I'm going to kill you, motherfucker." And Tony, I'm standing there. I'm like, well, number one, I'm taller than him. And I said, well, what the fuck you gonna do, man? I said, you're the one standing there on the plexiglass with clothes on and shaking the keys in your pocket, scared to come in here and get me. Come get me. Come get me. And I was talking all kinds of stuff because I didn't realize the rules in the jail. And the rules in the jail are not freedom of speech. It's not, due process. It's not freedom of cruel and unusual punishment, all that. It's basically nobody's going to tell when it happened.
Yeah.
And they have different rules that me being a PA doing heart surgery, 8,000 patients, 20 odd, some odd, 20, I don't even know how many years, man, but it's a lot of people, a lot of families that I impacted. And I chose to take an oath of do no harm. I didn't live, I lived an oath of do no harm. I chose to, because as PAs, it's not like a doctor. You don't take an oath of do no harm, which is probably more of a legal, implication than anything else. But we as PAs, we pride ourselves on doing no harm for those patients,
Mhm.
even though in surgery, maybe you do make them worse before you make them better. But over the years, I helped improve and save and increase longevity for many, many people. And I was astonished, Tony, and stupidly ashamed that this level of execution straight up happens to, well, to people that weren't convicted, people that were accused. And in our society, I found too that and I knew this, the accused, they don't have rights. They don't have the, what do you call, the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
They're all lumped into one group and it's considered low life. Well, jail number one is considered about, I don't know, 25 to 33 at least percent homeless people. There are a lot of people that do things illegally that get caught, but oftentimes too, they're set up by this kind of third party system that I uncovered along the way here, because I found that really the jails, the legal system, the officers, they use and manipulate frequently members of the psychological medical community, practitioners and patients, in order to benefit their causes, their setups, their arrangements. And it's despicable, because to me, these psychiatric patients, which the only people that deal with psychiatric issues, Tony, are those that own a brain and a spinal cord. Well, it's everybody I know. Maybe they don't have much of a spine, but they have a spinal cord,
Yeah.
and if you have a brain and a spinal cord, you deal with neuro issues, psych issues. Some deal with it better than others. The chemistry, the balances, the imbalances are different with everybody. We're all unique, and I got labeled and thrown into the psychiatric medical community when they falsely diagnosed me straight up. They said I was delusional because I said I had done heart surgery for 25 years. They said I was delusional because I was in the river with Pablo's hippos in Colombia. They said I was delusional because really just most of the things, the way it all came together, that was the only thing that the police could do after their false investigation and false following and tracking and trying to get people to say things and all. Best thing they could do was make me disappear or destroy my character. And they make me look crazy. Well, that's something I can't dispute, right? Because if they false arrest me twice and then Baker Act me 13 times, all in a matter of like under 6 months, except for the very first arrest. It was all bogus.
Yeah.
And imagine, that's pretty scary to know that, well, if they can't arrest you, they're just going to tell everybody, well, He thinks we want to kill him. Well, what happens if they actually try to? Because Officer Cordona, when he threatened to kill me, he then charged in the room with a group of about 6 people, beating the shit out of me, banging my head on the brick wall, punching me in the face, punching me in the head, shocking me with the stun cuffs or stun gun twice when they said I reached for it. Man, I played dead fish, Tony. You know as I do. If you resist, you are a dead man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're gonna take it to you some
Especially
fierce.
and I knew when they were putting a stun gun hitting me with that, I felt something else back here. And I'm quite sure it wasn't another stun gun. But I believe in the jail system, the way it works is you get one warning and the second time is escalation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way the rule goes. When you get trespassed, you get one warning. And if you don't really listen, if you, especially if they're in a bad mood, you're going right away. But in the stun gun, when they shoot you with it one time, if you fight or resist that time, they can choose to escalate and go up to the next level, which is straight up killing you. And
Yeah.
I think I played dead fish, man. Because last thing I want my son to know is I was either killed or set up to look like I killed myself in a jail.
Yeah.
Especially when I was there fighting something real, man. Because at this point, when they charged in and did that, they threw me back in a chair again. And I have the video, which I shared with you, showing the bald-headed officer Cordona who threatened to kill me tightening those straps now about 5 or 6 times, overly accentuating the fact that he's making good on his promise because he threatened to kill me. Well, right before that, I had told the officers that Officer Mathis had me put in that chair where they tried to choke me out and kill me as well.
Mhm.
And they brought Officer Mathis in and they brought Officer Cordona in, supposedly having them in cells next to me, while they then threw me in another one of their strapped in situations in what they call the restraint or devil's chair.
Yeah.
And this time, man, he's seen trying to tighten it 5, 6 times. I mean, obviously making it overly look like what he was trying to do, in my opinion. And that was cover up the initial higher ranking official that ordered to have me put in this chair and shut up for good. I know it sounds incredulous, but also what happens next is too. I was repeatedly injected to the point of passing out, coming to, where they were trying a twisted form of, I guess they thought they were going to try and brainwash me or manipulate me or make it known to me that they meant business. And I better listen to these fuckers because they put electric handcuffs on me and relentlessly shocked me every time I said Officer Mathis threatened and had tried to have me killed. Officer Cordona threatened and tried to kill me. When I said Officer Mathis and Cordona deserved to die, I didn't say I wanted to kill them, Tony. I said they deserve to die because, in my mind, they tried to do attempted murder, especially premeditated. And in the state of Florida, I believe that's not a life sentence, right?
Right. No, it's not.
I mean,
But
they can sentence you to death for that. And then, my opinion, that was why I said that. Again, if I say you deserve to die, does that mean I want to kill you? Hell no, it doesn't. I would never threaten to hurt anybody or myself. I don't even like, hurting animals. That's why I got involved in Colombia because I am a true humanitarian. Helping Pablo's hippos, as crazy as it all sounds, well, it's part of my brand, Blood Sweat. And now, Blood Sweat, as it mimics the properties of the mighty hippo, our mascot. Well, after they got done beating, shocking, injecting me, where I had tested positive for fentanyl in their jail that day, well, can tell you my word says I never tried to start using fentanyl and start an illegal distribution ring in Colombia. I'm a humanitarian, truly. And my reputation and background substantiates that claim. Well, I also have bad claims against them. And I filed a Section 1983 civil suit December 3rd against the boys in blue in Pinellas County, and I made some mistakes. I've had to proceed pro se litigant, Tony, because I cannot find a lawyer that's willing to take this. I can name I think it was 5 or 6 of my constitutional rights. They took all my guns, paraded me through my house after their after their 14th or 15th Baker Act. They handcuffed me, took me through my house, took all my guns that I used at the range, right? And a lot of money invested there, but I liked them. I collected them. I shot them at the range and I had them for home defense. They took away obviously my freedom of speech, shocking me every time I said something they didn't want to hear. Well, that right there should disturb everybody watching this video, right?
Mhm.
If they can shock you every time they ask you a question and you don't answer it correctly, well, after the 100th time, maybe you can't take it anymore. Because if you see the video of the officer shocked with the stun cuff on one ankle, he states it was the single worst pain he's ever experienced in a short amount of time in his life. One ankle, one shock. I was shocked 30 plus times on both of my hands. You can see how my fingers are white. All of the sensory nerves, my radial, medial, and ulnar nerves on both of my hands, the sensory nerves are all dead. Well, it's significant because this has never happened in the history of medicine. My doctor is a neurologist, neurosurgeon, and he says, Steve, what happened to you? He says, I asked my colleagues, I looked it up. There's no evidence of this ever happening to somebody. Complete sense of neuropathy of the upper distal extremity. That's a new disorder. And, I kept getting shocked because I wouldn't lie to comply, Tony. And
Yeah.
then at one point I knew, I mean, this shit went on for almost 40 hours before I was finally let go and thrown into a hospital where they said that I thought that they wanted to kill me. Well, I just told you how they tried to kill me. Why the fuck am I getting thrown into another Baker Act now? Number 15 or whatever. Well, they can use their Baker Act anytime they want and anytime they can't justify you being arrested. There's pluses and minuses for them, but they completely use and manipulate the psychiatric medical facilities oftentimes in order to proceed and accomplish their agendas. And unfortunately, some of you are guilty of taking part of that, right? Those that target and be watched, followed, set up. I mean, if you're selling out, well, I mean, you really are with them. And you got to think about what you're doing if you choose to investigate and look into and follow somebody, because maybe you're ruining the wrong person's life. They tried to ruin mine. And truly, I spent almost 6 months in jail because after 14 Baker Acts, the 2 arrests. They had put a ankle monitor on me and made me homeless. I couldn't go back to my house because my neighbor got upset that the dog pooped in her yard and I yelled at her or something when she was being a bitch, being a Karen. Uh,
Mhm.
well, after that, I was walking down the street, limping down the street, twice disabled, beat to shit already and everything. I mean, can you beat up a disabled veteran in this country? Well, you can do it on video, apparently, in Pinellas County, because this shit's been buried. And now I have the video. I'm showing the video, and it's still been buried. And they, when I had the ankle monitor on me, I snapped. I actually went and walked down to Congresswoman Luna's office, our local representative in Seminole, Florida, St. Petersburg, and I cut off my ankle monitor and I picked it up and used my proper hip movement and I threw it in her lap in protest of the electric handcuffs. And this was on January 18th, 2024, after nobody would listen to me. And they made me homeless and they took all my guns and they accomplished exactly what they wanted to do: throw me in a corner and get people to forget about me. Well, they made a mistake because about a month before my press release, I had filed and had my company, Blood Sweat Inc. and Hippos in Training LLC, created October 2023. Well, if they interfere with that company by false investigation, by all this tracking, manipulating, following, accusing, going up to family members and asking them about my involvement in Colombia and dirty work and all that, I've got people to vouch for all this stuff, but it's a violation of the Federal Trade Commission and stopping and impeding somebody's business development. Blood Sweat Incorporated went under. I'm bringing it back as a humanitarian effort because when I got tortured in that freaking black chair for so many hours and almost 2 full days in their jail, how the hell can they do that? Hijack me and just straight up try to kill me. And when it didn't work, they just throw me out into the dirt and pretend it didn't happen. And Officer Mathis, when I approached him after, he said to me, and I have him on video, look, what are you talking about? If I was a cop, you think I'd be in a jail? I said, well, figured you might be there investigating an inmate in a situation where somebody said that you had attempted to have him murdered. So yeah, I didn't think you were there as an inmate. Why do you think that? The whole story, everything I'd say and claim, substantiated by evidence. And that's something hard to fight, the truth, right?
Yeah, it is. I
Well,
got a
it's
question.
really surprisingly difficult to prove the truth when you're falsely accused, Tommy. You know
Yeah,
that.
oh yeah, trust me, I know. We've talked about this on the several levels, man. You know, and we both had similar situations trying to prove your innocence, even though you know you're innocent, right? I was told earlier that I needed to prove my innocence of something I didn't even have nothing to do with it. I was like, what? Okay. I was like, so let me get this straight. This is a situation, and I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, this is funny.
Well,
But
what struck me, because we're all an island when we're in jail, but what struck me about it was, look, honestly, other than them killing my son's father, I was ready to die and willing to fight for my life over this principles, which probably was stupid. And most people would tell you just shut the hell up if you go in there and get out and live another day.
mhm,
Well, it was a point of no return when I realized what was going on. But what really struck me was how many people haven't survived this? How many people have taken this immense amount of abuse? This isn't a black white thing. First off, black and white doesn't exist. You know,
right,
we've talked about this, Tony. We're truly the shades, pure black, pure white. It's just I don't know. There's an overlap on both ends, and I know from doing heart surgery that the skin is an organ. This is one of the earliest things I talk about with people, and I like to teach people this because we seem to have forgotten that the skin is an organ, the
right,
biggest organ on your body, protects you from the external environment of your host, the planet Earth. Well, blood sweat, we stand for children, animals, and our planet, cat, and separating our bodies from our external environment and protecting us is our greatest organ, the skin. And so I challenge people, if you're going to judge me by an organ, make it my brain, not my skin.
right, right.
Because if you think about life, well, we're actually an organism on Earth practicing organism. Isn't that funny? It's not
It
racism
is.
because underneath the skin is your race. It's the
Yeah,
human race, and that muddy water is enough right there to cause a lot of confusion, a
yeah,
lot of separation. And that topic to me is over because
yeah.
that's where I stand on it. And I stand for life. I thought I stood for liberty and the American way and all that, but America left me a long time ago. And I'm prepared to leave America, to be honest. I'm not saying I'm gonna just yet, but now I'm off probation and I'm rethinking how I develop and establish blood sweat because there is no crying in baseball, right? There's no
Yeah.
crying in blood sweat. When they got done torturing me and all in their freaking black chair and doing everything they could to erase me, they stood me up all beaten and bleeding. My face was jacked. I got a new dimple under here from a big hematoma. And I looked down. Well, there was this much of my blood sweat in that chair, Tony. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, well, my hippo secretes blood sweat, and so do I. Because I wasn't crying, not like that officer that had the electric handcuff on his ankle. I didn't even know the electric handcuffs existed. And rather than complain about it, rather than tell everybody how terrible the police are, I'm not here to do that.
Right.
I'm here to move on, move forward, and stay positive. But I'm positive that I have a goal now of making those electric handcuffs declared unconstitutional for use and manufacture in the United States of America.
Mhm.
And I think I can accomplish that. I've created a petition. I know how many signatures I roughly need to really make it a legitimate cause, but the numbers are climbing, and I believe they're gonna grow exponentially as people like yourself find out that they can now remotely shock people. Ain't that some shit? Well,
Yeah.
they broke two rules with me, Tony. They're supposed to only use them for transporting inmates, right? High risk inmates, whatever. Well, they're also, because I wasn't being transported, I was already restrained. They were also only supposed to shock you for a maximum of 3 times. Funny enough, that's my lucky number. They shocked me over 30 something times. I don't know. I assume those devices have an electronic footprint like the stun gun does. But
Yeah.
when I requested all the video from the jail, well, I was given about less than 5% of the footage that occurred in those 40 plus hours. Isn't that strange? And what's really strange is that there was enough evidence there to where the judge is still hearing my case. And being that I filed my civil suit pro se litigant, Section 1983 USC 42 uh, civil suit, where the boys in blue, I said they violated what? My right to due process, freedom of speech, cruel and unusual punishment, right? The right to bear arms, the right to, I don't know. There was a couple others. And how many constitutional rights would you take being violated in this situation? I mean, one you'd think is enough to have a case, right?
Yeah.
Well, oh, my pursuit to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In trying to end my life, I believe they were trying to keep me from my pursuit of life, right?
Mhm.
The judge is hearing this case, and um, I I didn't file it correctly in Florida anyway. You have to file your lawsuit specifically naming the people involved. Well, number one, how do you know all the officers involved, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you're damn near killed multiple times. So I'm pleading with the judge to try and get me to the discovery phase, but I can tell you, I filed December 3rd. I served them February 28th. It was like 2, 3 days before the deadline. Well, why? Because that's what they do to us, right?
Mhm.
They make us have hope that maybe they're not going to file the charges and we're going to run free. And always on the 30th day, you get your little paperwork. You're like, damn, you know, char-
Yeah.
charges. Well, that's what I did to them. I waited till the 89th or 88th day, whatever, and I served them. And then the three institutions, Pinellas County Jail, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, Tarpon Springs Police, all filed motions to be dismissed. They had 6 attorneys within 2 days. And guess what they all had in common, Tony? They were female. Well, is that odd? Let me ask you. I mean, if there's a team of attorneys, 6 of them against you, and they're all straight up females, what does that tell you? Well, to be crude, it tells you that they're a bunch of bitches, right? And I don't mean that against the women. I mean that against the males in the official department that chose to never come and speak to me about the incident. It was funny. The jail called me, right? The one time I got called, and he says, "Look, I'm only part of the intake department." So he's not responsible for what happens when you're there or when you leave the jail. Why? Why do they break it down like that? Well, I never got called from the other two people. I never got called from the other two people. They wanted to hear my complaint, but to be honest, all the officer wanted to tell me was suck it up, shut up, and just go away. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they wanted to be where every single thing that whoever they support does is okay with them. Well, that type of blind support is foolish and dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you back anybody that has potential of committing murder, straight up murder, with multiple tools on their belt? Why would you say, I'm going to blindly back every single one of them in the state of Florida, right?
Yeah,
Or maybe even in the country? Well, just like cadets in the military, just like people doing heart surgery, there's good and bad of everybody. You can train somebody to do a job. Generally, you can't train them to be a good person, Tony.
that's very true.
And
But
unfortunately, the training and education process that's a prerequisite for the legal system is quite minimal. And to be honest, ironically enough, you can get that education in jail. It's called a GED. And that's the minimum requirement for pretty much, unless an individual institution or group of officials decide to elevate that prerequisite. Man, that's scary.
that is scary, man. That is scary that someone has that much power. And for individuals to be in a place of serving, supposedly serving and protecting our communities, they can pretty much, they have, it doesn't take much to get that badge and a gun and give them authority or somewhat authority to hurt and, what I'm saying, and in some cases kill the people that they're sworn to protect and serve.
Well, remember, to protect and serve is put in quotations on the side of the cop
Hmm.
car. And I'm not so sure. Maybe that's just to be a little sarcastic, to protect and serve. You
Well,
know,
I had read
maybe
somewhere,
it's their own agenda at times that they
yeah,
protect and serve. And it depends individually, just like in a hospital, who you're
mhm,
taken care of by and how you're treated, right? It's
mhm,
not the institution that takes care of you, it's the individual. And yeah, if they're undereducated, if they're over testosterone, if they're beefed up and they know that my supervisor and my inferiors have my back no matter what I do, why are they not accountable for each other?
mhm.
Who's accountable? Well, I can tell you, I found out a terrible answer to a question that I posed to many people, and they don't know the answer, unfortunately, most of the time. It's who runs internal affairs. And I don't know if I asked you this already or yet, or not, Tony, but do you know internal affairs, who runs them?
I do not.
And think about that. I mean, you consider yourself an activist in a way, nothing against you. I'd put you in a group of others that, like myself, didn't know who ran internal affairs. My assumption is maybe it's a federal organization or something, right?
Hmm.
A third party. Well, what if I told you it was the chief and the assistant chief of police?
Wow. So the same
Ain't
people.
that disturbing?
That is very
Internal
disturbing.
Affairs is going to watch this, guys. Well, that gives the community a great amount of security and comfort, doesn't it? Until they know who runs Internal Affairs. Well, now Taurine Mathis, the guy that denied even being involved in this incident, who on multiple cameras is obviously going to be shown to be there, and in court has stated that he hasn't been involved in this at all, which, well, that should discredit his credibility completely just from the get-go, right out the gate. And now he's an assistant to the chief. Well, he's part of internal affairs. So if he was trying to rub somebody out that even was his friend, I did CPR and tried to save a kid's life that was in a motorcycle accident next to this guy many years back. He took care of watched over my daughter at her high school as the school resource officer. Well, when he came in and I had said that he had me put in that chair, they tried to kill me. It was his order. He said, Steve, I only did it because you wouldn't leave my officers alone in the street. Does that sound like something I'm just coming out of nowhere with and making up on a guy that wasn't even involved or at the scene of this incredulous, terribly concocted, attempted rub out by a group of corrupt Keystone cops in Tampon Springs? Ain't that funny? And I was once known as the Tarpon Spring Strangler in a way because, well, they had accused me falsely of trying to choke my wife. Now you got other officers that could be known as the Tarpon Spring Strangler. If anybody investigates this truly, which I believe it's quite likely possible that the federales are a part of investigating this, Tony. I didn't go down quietly. I mailed out the pictures of my injuries, the video, video was on my YouTube, but I mailed out a description of the incident. I I sent out the ENG, the electromyogram, the EMG electromyogram that shows the injuries to my hands, these nerve damage, all the sensory nerves killed. Never happened in the history of medicine. Coincidentally, it happens to a guy that says they used electric handcuffs on him. Oh, that was why they Baker acted me 15 times too, because I kept telling them they had used electric handcuffs on me. One of the doctors even falsely documented that I had said they used invisible handcuffs on me, Tony. I I'm a medical practitioner. I was trained to diagnose, treat, and take care of patients for many, many years. And you know, that overlap included psychiatric medicine in my field. You think I never treated depression, anxiety? I mean, people experience that all the time, including suicidal ideations after they have heart surgery. It's normal for some people to experience that 25, 35% of the time. And to me, life is a gift. It's not yours to take or give. And I'll be damned if somebody's going to try and take mine. Because, like I said, they tried to kill my son's father. And I'm fighting for him because my son, Ashton Jeter, is the president of Hippos in Training. He's 9 years old. He's obviously got a middle name that's named after a very famous baseball player, but he's a stout young man that has been there for me, stood by my side and backed me up and believed in me as I told him things that honestly nobody else even wanted to hear other than this old deaf-blind poodle, Tony. And I thank you for hearing my story because
Of
this
course.
is only the beginning for Blood Sweat. I'm here now to fix problems that people maybe didn't even know exist. I ultimately was homeless because of the hurricanes and because of my first hurricane being my ex-wife taking my house when I was in jail protesting the electric handcuffs because I never want my son to have them put on him. And they're manufactured right here in Newport Richey. They've been used in our country on our people since 2013. Hopefully, we're going to have a link where people can go and sign my petition. My drip, my clothing line is coming out. I trademarked not only Blood Sweat, but I trademarked the drip, Tony. And so my drip here, I put it on here. I call it the tickle drip, but I
All
hide
right.
the
All
drip
right.
on different parts of clothing. And we're raising money and awareness to not only help fix the invasive hippo problem in Colombia, fix the problem of our planet, right? We
Yeah.
help along with India, Mexico to eradicate, not get rid of and kill them, but rather move them to safe sanctuaries and locations where they can be protected because they are a piece of history. If we
Right.
do that, we show that, wow, as a company, we're really going to do some great things. And now I'm standing up against electric handcuffs. I have numbness, coldness, sweaty palms. I drop things. My hands cramp. I can't do certain things like I used to, and certainly can never do heart surgery again.
Right.
But I
Right.
remember shortly after I was pushing my son on a swing, and I'm going to show you this here in a second because it means something. But my son looked at me. He's like, Dad, why are your hands so cold? I said, well, Ashton, when they shocked me over and over, they killed all the nerves. And so I can't feel whether they're cold. The sensory is gone. It doesn't send senses back to my brain that I'm cold and dilate the vessels. It's complicated, but my sensory nerves don't work. And so I don't know when they're cold and when I should put them in my pocket. And my son, after a few swings, looks at me and he's like, Dad, I'll tell you when your hands are cold, and that's my son, Ashton, means everything to me, especially being that I found out who I really had in my corner. And well, that didn't even include my wife or many people along the way. But now there's quite a following that believe in Blood Sweat, believe in what I'm doing. But To be honest, Tony, it doesn't really matter anymore because, well, after being homeless, after fighting for the disability, I've finally gotten approved and I've finally gotten a home again. And now, if you look at over here, the blood sweat mobile is over here parked in the handicap parking spot. And the blood sweat mobile is here to do some real work, and we want to make a big difference, and I have future plans. Mainly you have to generate income, and so this is Shark Week coming up, and that's why I created this one with the hippo inside the jaws, and we'll have this stuff on our website. I think it's a unique opportunity to develop a brand that maybe can be based on the skincare functional properties of the hippo's own blood sweat, but blood sweat and blood sweat drip with all that I've been through now to help develop and create the brand. Well, I'm going to make that brand work for us. And I tell people, I'm Steve. Without you, there's no us. It sounds kind of corny, right? But I'm a
No,
veteran
it
of the
doesn't.
Air Force. I'm a veteran of taking care of your grandmother. And I've got tons and tons and tons and branches of people that will vouch for me and my background. So this fishy story, don't let it fool you. Um, I guess you could say they fell right into my trap because they helped me create a medical legal trail so solid, Tony, that this is undisputedly the most proof that probably somebody's ever had against a corrupt system. And I know it's difficult, accusations like being followed and things like that. Like, for one, I'm not even worried about that shit because in my life, there are no ops because in a race, it's you and your op. And to me, I ain't even looking at these bitches unless I get on the finish line. I stop and get some water and popcorn, and then I watch them crawl across the line while I shoot spitballs at them. I tell you at this point, because I've complained all the way up to Governor DeSantis. I've spoken to his office. They even said, after corresponding with me multiple times, that they thought I was crazy. They didn't know electric handcuffs existed. Jacob Taylor of Citizen Services said that to me. And then they went quiet. Congresswoman Luna went quiet because why? Well, in my opinion, I believe Governor DeSantis blindly supports all of his officers. And I believe that's a mistake because if he believes in electric handcuffs, then I believe he's got a problem with his presidential bid.
Wow, man. Holy shit.
I'm a veteran of the Air Force. I've done
Yeah.
heart surgery. All that can be backed up. I don't tell people that to do anything other than build credibility at this point.
Right.
You'll see my levels of humanitarianism as we go. I have much bigger plans than helping fix the Amazon and helping fix our legal system. I want to help fix our Little League, and I want to help foster good relationships and not seeing our children bullied in front of everybody right in front of
Right.
us. That was my initial goal, was to develop hippos in training. Blood sweat became a tributary. Well, when nobody would believe me, when nobody would listen to me, and when I went all the way up and complained to the governor, complained to Rick Scott's office, complained to Congresswoman Luna, the same lady that I was petitioning for getting canceled that drug Gunnacon. I didn't throw my ankle monitor in her lake for nothing, Tony. I
Yeah.
worked with Chris. I forget Chris's last name, but he was her first assistant, and we were doing big things with the Hippo project. And so I figured, if somehow I'm being blackballed, let me throw a ankle monitor in her lake. That splash got like 30 officers and EMS there immediately, and I'm quite sure at about 8 in the morning she found out about it. Well, I also wrote my complaint, my pictures, the EMG, all the evidence I had, and sent it to every governor in our country. Because to me, this is a national security issue, man. If local and state authorities have power over our federal government in one tiny little town, obviously that's a symptom of a much bigger disease, is it not?
It is. It really is.
And to me, that's the maybe part of the solution. I'm not here to point out what they did bad things. I'm not here to get bought, traded, or sold. I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't be bought out of my court case because I want my peers to see these videos. I want I want America to see these videos, Tony, not the ones they gave me, which are incriminating enough. You've seen them.
I have.
I mean,
Evidence
whether
is solid.
if I ever put a pillow over one of my patients' faces and tried to perform pillow therapy on them, which is often joked about in taking care of unruly patients. You
Mhm.
think I'd be accountable? You think I'd be uh, tried for such a crime? Well, there's no doubt, and my license would be in jeopardy. Well, my license is already in jeopardy with all these false accusations. My NCCPA license is currently under suspension that I'm trying to get returned to me. But you know, these guys can hurt, kill, or damn near kill people. Some of them on a regular basis, even if it's just little incidents, right? They break somebody's finger, right? They pull a tuft of hair out. They make that handcuff a little extra tight. Well, look at I understand the onus of responsibility ultimately lies on the prisoners to comply, not to lie to comply, but to physically comply with their orders. If they're in the legal rights, that is, right? Because
Yeah,
they're not always right. Oftentimes they're wrong. And I attribute that to perhaps minimal prerequisites for the legal system. Imagine if the attorneys only had to have a freaking high school degree or a GED, not even a degree.
man.
I've uncovered, it seems to me, the dirty politicians, the dirty journalists, the dirty lawyers, and the dirty cops, or at least the four main um, parties that stand to not only control but to benefit from how the system is run and has been run. And maybe that's part of the reason why, or because they almost killed me, it ignited such a research project when I was in jail for almost 6 months, Tony. That's what it was. It was a research project, and I've got a lot of research to tell and unfold and document, but I got to get some people listening. The
Oh
fact
yeah,
that they have electric handcuffs is the firework enough. It's the electricity enough to say, okay, this is too far now. And now, well, I'm on disability. Like I said, I work for you guys. So I'm going to keep making shirts. I'm going to keep putting them on my website, and I'm going to keep standing up and supporting Blood Sweat, because standing up for Blood Sweat is truly standing up for you, you know?
I love that,
And
man. I can't wait to get my drip, man. I can't
I
wait
know,
to get it.
man. Trust me.
Representing.
There's a couple others, you know. Unfortunately, you're not local, and I have had, you know, I don't feel like I'm at the finish line until the story breaks. And perhaps I'm there now, Tony.
Hey, you never
Maybe
know,
we're at
man.
the beginning of it now. But I'm not going to stop until finally somebody listens.
Most definitely.
And
There's a lot of people listening right now, and to everybody who's been tuning in, especially on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, I see you guys out there, and so
I didn't see any of the numbers, and I didn't put a link up to my social media. Obviously, bloodsweat.info is my website, not obviously, because it's not
mhm,
.com, bloodsweat.info, like information. The petition to sign and have the electric handcuffs declared unconstitutional should be on the front of there. If not, I'll make sure it's on there. We're going to be doing a photo shoot with some models in order to show our next line, Blood, Sweat, Drip. And I tell you, the drip is dope. You can't deny that shit. Ask any child in the world that knows it. There's nothing cooler than your drip.
most definitely, most definitely.
And now,
And that was going to
if
be my next question too. That was going to be my next question. How can people find you? But how can people find your social media so they can follow you up there as well?
there's on Instagram, there's a few different ones I've had to create because I have been blocked and censored locally significantly, and it's I believe it's backfiring in a way because keeping the bottle on this whole unfortunate chain of events that occurred, well, it's going to spike and grow more interest. I would think the more they try to hide it, it's trying to keep a secret. You know, a new humanitarian organization, number one, being out there that's trying to help fix a problem of our Amazon. Why would officials try to block that from being known anyway?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you question their legitimacy right off the bat?
Yeah. Like, what are they trying to hide?
I know what they're trying to hide. I know too much truth. And, you know, I've even been told along this progress that my life could, and I ain't worried about all that, Tony.
Yeah.
Trust me, I can't feel my hands now. So these hands, they can go right through somebody's chest cage, metaphorically.
I love it, man.
And I would never physically attack, resist, or whatever, but I would defend myself just like a hippo. Somebody comes in my bedroom, even though all my guns are gone. Well, the katana blade isn't. And you
Oh
know,
man.
that's normal for us want to protect ourselves, our family, our animals even, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know why I was chosen to be put in the middle of this whole thing, but I do know it's not just about me saving and standing up for my life. This is not it. This is about many other people that didn't have a chance to. You see, unlike others, I can't be bought, sold, or traded. I have a decent income and disability, but what I plan, you know, my job offer at Tampa General is for 250,000 a year. Well, if I can't work with my hands and operate anymore, are they liable for a 20-year career? That's $5 million without pain and suffering, but also without talking about the fact that they inhibited the growth of my companies, which is a violation of the Federal Trade Commission, also, Tony. And the pain and suffering of being isolated, losing my family, basically being told you're crazy because you're standing up and trying to tell people the police almost killed you. That's twisted. And then having them try to shut down your humanitarian organization, twisted. There's a few things I think that are going to become uncovered along this path that they'll make sense later.
Yeah.
But when my blood sweat now stands for blood sweat, when the Hippo's blood sweat, that gives our brand legitimacy. I'll get back to Hippos in training and developing that website as we go. But now I've gotten really involved in developing our logos and blood sweat drip, and the clothing is fun. I mean, I put the little hippo on the sleeves and I'll throw it on the inside so that, you know, you can hide it if you want to, you
Yeah.
know, and then you show somebody the little hippo, the blue hippo, is something people really like, Tony. I
I
mean,
like
look
it,
at
man. I
even
really dig it.
Jaws is eating it, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that this is going to be something flying off the shelf when you talk about making hippo socks and clothing and something that perhaps could be a cool brand, making it cool to be good again,
Yeah.
because that's why the tip of my drip is blue. The two colors of the acids that make up blood sweat are hipposudoric and norhipposudoric acid. That's pink and orange. And then the blue stands to me for heaven, because that's where heaven lies. It's not in the clouds on pearly gates. I've flown in helicopters and airplanes above the clouds. You know, the heaven is probably up in the blue, down in the blue. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But blue was better than black for me. And in my trademarking, I did it in black and white because that way I can change the colors anyway. But
Yeah.
God played a big role in developing this company, saving my life, finding a new path for me, finding me a new mission, a movement. If I got the chance to fix more than just one heart at a time, but maybe the opportunity to help many brains at a time, right?
Yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. Because
I mean,
it all works together. It all
yeah,
works together.
it
So I
does
got
somehow, Tony. It's a complicated story, but I
yeah.
appreciate you listening and
Of course,
believing in
man.
me and believing in it, because just like with God, you have to take somewhat of a blind faith in this situation and say, okay, well, do I believe this guy's crazy story?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Most definitely. But see, here's the thing, man. It's an honor and a privilege to have come alongside of you at the time right now to be able to see the growth, to be a part of it as well, right? To be a part of something big, and to be able to support that, but bring awareness to everybody who's listening in right now that are, you know, that want to be involved in something positive, something powerful, to help make a change, not only in humanitarian's life, but in the lives of our children as well with the hippos and training. And
Yeah.
I'm saying, you got the drip coming, so guys, keep your eyes out for that as well. I'm saying his information will be in a YouTube channel and get all that stuff in there. I got one
I
more
mean, we
question
got to
for you.
sign that petition, man. That's the main thing because
Yeah.
to me, that's our real platform. If we get people to realize, okay, I wouldn't put a shock collar on my dog, particularly my old blind dog.
Hmm.
Well, what if I'm going to put a shock collar on you? Because if they have shock handcuffs, leg cuffs, and waist cuffs, it's a matter of time before the shock collar comes out. And if they can shock you remotely until you tell them what they want to, you better understand that that's a very dangerous tool in the hands of those that may commit crimes here and there, themselves anyway. Some of them,
Right, right,
right? If we stand up against that and we get a petition going that has enough followers and signatures that okay, we've gained some attention. Well, perhaps we can sign that someday in the White House. I believe.
right, right.
Anything is not possible, Tony, but anything you believe you can do is.
I had something spicy. um,
I didn't figure I hit you that hard. That wasn't that deep.
no, it was deep though. It was deep, but I got these doggone spicy peanuts, and I popped one in my mouth, and the spice went down my throat. And I was like, you know what?
Good timing.
Good timing, always good timing.
Yeah.
Hey, brother. So
Well,
one
I
more
had
question
this
for
I
you.
had this backdrop today because of our humanitarianism and all. There's turtle nests along the beach. They're wrapped in pink like markings and all. So if you happen to see them, if you're out on the beach, stay away from them. And they encourage people to shut their lights off at night because the baby turtles will follow the light and go towards the road instead of the sea. So just to raise a little awareness of some local animal efforts. There's a lot of things that I've gotten into since I quit doing heart surgery, but I can tell you I'm ready for it all. And
Man.
I'm ready for people to know that, well, maybe you don't like how I say things, how I look, or even if I put a little too much tone on it here and there, but you're going to have to get used to hearing my voice because I'm not just going to be like that girl Gretchen standing up on a mountain shouting at all the problems we got. I'm going to point out the things I did to fix the problems and maybe even tell you about a problem you didn't know existed, but we were already on it. And we got others in plan in mind, and I want to integrate others groups and others brands into the growth and development of Blood Sweat so we can become and help become a bigger team and help lift each other up.
Right. So I got one more question for you, Steve, before I let you go, man. And what I'm saying, I'm happy to support you. You know what I'm saying? So what people don't understand, I'm actually partnered with Stephen and Blood Sweat. So we're going to be out there doing some amazing things. So guys, you're going to get used to seeing him around. You're going to get used to seeing the calls. You know what I'm saying? Go check out the website. Go sign that petition. Go get you some drip. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this. Let's change people's lives. Let's be part of the solution. You know what I'm saying? And that way we can change these things, man. We can do so much more together. Y'all always know that. Y'all guys already know that, my mission in this world is to change people's lives one heartbeat at a time by bringing some amazing stories from amazing people that are out here making a change in this world. So, what I'm saying, this is just one more step in the right direction. So, Stephen, one more question for you, brother. If you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Well, like I emphasized multiple times, please sign the petition and share it. Electric stun cuffs, completely unconstitutional, particularly when used and abused in certain manners that aren't policed very well.
Yeah.
And since they've been using them for over 15, 17 years, it's time to call them out on that one. We can talk about some other problems too, but that's the number one question I'm raising my hand and asking people pay attention to and ask, do you know about stun cuffs? Are they used in my state? I know they're used in Florida, and that's our presidential candidate now, right? He's
Yeah.
one of the top 10 candidates. And so I do thumbs up pound with my people and with my kids. That way, if they like it, they can say thumbs up. And if not, they can do thumbs down, and we can kind of communicate without others knowing that we're even talking. Um,
Dig that.
I say thumbs up on the Tony Lynch show here, and we'll get the grief when we got time, Tony. I'm still trying to digest and act tough about it all, because to me, that's a sign of weakness just yet. I'm not afraid to show my grief, but I'm not going to let anybody think that they got one over on me, see me grief until the time's
Hey, we're gonna do a
appropriate.
part two. Whenever you get ready, we'll do a part two. Then we can talk about how it affect you. You know what I'm saying, as you was going. But for right now, man, we're gonna remain strong. We're gonna be a loud voice. We're gonna
No
make a
doubt.
change, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna keep moving forward. We're gonna get more and more people behind us. We're just going to keep, you know what I'm saying, pushing it forward till someone pays attention and hears your voice, right? You know what I'm saying? So, man, we all just making moves in the right direction. So, with that being said, my brother, you know what I'm saying? Man, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I can't wait to do part two.
I
We got
tell you, Tony, watch how many of your listeners, your following, start getting into the dispute first off as to whether or not they exist, whether he's crazy or not, whether this story is true or not. Like, that's going to be interesting, because I already know the answer to that. And the one thing you can't dispute, sir, is science. You know, when patents were filed for, when that jail only owns one pair of those electric handcuffs, how did I guess that? I didn't know they existed either. And it's a shame that we let this one slip by us, but it's a great opportunity, is it not?
it
It's a great
is.
opportunity to raise awareness, say we've had enough, say this is too far. Let's bring it back a little bit, and maybe Blood Sweat helps somehow to encourage a third party to be more interested and influenced in following over our local and state authorities that truly are running our lives, are they not?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
Not the
Most definitely.
federales that are watching this, maybe, but our state and locals. It's a system of checks and balances to me that is not there, and maybe we can help with that. And I think Blood Sweat's gonna. My voice is not here to try and ignite fire. I'm here to put out fires.
I love that. I love that. And the strong mission to be standing behind and be able to
And I
support it.
love the cops, man. I love the good cops. But come on,
Yeah,
how are we gonna know the difference? Maybe we
most
put Blood Sweat on the lapel of the good cops. How about that?
definitely. I love it, man. Get them all dripped up.
Blood
Um,
Sweat. That's right,
Blood
baby.
sweat, man. Blood
Yeah,
sweat.
hippos
We're
and
gonna
that
keep
drip,
pushing it
man.
forward, brother.
I gotta get that on you before you go on your road trip.
Yeah, most definitely,
But
because I'm going to be out here pushing it too. So you know what I'm saying. But that's going to be coming. I'm going to let people know about that as well. For
yeah,
the people who are tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel. If you want to get in contact with Steve, he is on Facebook, he's on TikTok, he's on Instagram. You know, he's all over the place. So you know what I'm saying. You guys are going to see a lot more content from him, from me as well. So if you want to support it, go ahead and follow him. Let's get this thing growing. Let's get it blown on out the water. If it's your first time tuning in, you made it all the way to the end, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, Grief. Let's talk about a podcast. Do what it
if
says.
they made it all the
Like,
way through the end, they deserve some drip, Tony. If they made it
hey,
through the end,
man.
but
Hey, we'll work that out. We'll work it
we
out
will.
for them.
We'll talk and we'll figure out how many of your followers are interested. But
Yeah.
you know,
But they'll reach
I'm
out
all
to you.
about spreading the love here, man.
Yeah, but they'll reach out to you. So, you know what I'm saying? His information is there. If you reach out to him, tell him that you saw him on the show, get you some drip, man. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to make
Yeah.
it happen. If it's your first time, if you have made it all the way to the end, and you know someone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, do me a favor, share this along with them, right? We're out here trying to reach more people. We're trying to make an impact, and we're changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. With that being said, guys, I am Tony Lynch. You guys already know we do a podcast every day, so tune in tomorrow. We got another one coming for you. And with that being said, fellas and ladies and gentlemen, I love you. And if you're not, head on out and make memories with the people that you love, because you never know, tomorrow's not promised. And we're going to see you guys at the next one. Thank you always for your support. All right. Peace.
All right. Peace.